Welcome, friends. Super excited to have the opportunity to share this space with you and talking about some of the most important issues that we face in AFSC's healing justice work and our efforts to free them all. Today, we're going to look at a very pressing issue, and that is it's almost a life and death issue for many people. During the early stages of the pandemic, AFSC and many across the country, and I suspect across the world, realized that if we were going to get a handle on this pandemic and to really look out for people who were facing the consequences of it, we could not stop at the prison and the jail and the detention centers because we knew that they were incubators. We knew that if we did not find a way to protect and free those who were living this pandemic in the confines of a prison or jail or detention center, then we would have tons more deaths and a spread of a disease and a virus that we would never get a handle on. And so we stood up and we said it's time to open the doors and look at opportunities to release people. And many local state governments realized it and took measures. And then the federal government decided it too would do something to address the dangers of enduring a pandemic while incarcerated. And during the passage of the CARES Act, part of that legislation said that we would release, thousands of people, all who were relatively close to completing their sentence for a nonviolent offense. And we would, through the clemency powers of the executive, we would release them. However, the CARES Act and many of the local legislation said that once the quote unquote pandemic was over, there would be a likelihood that these people would be sent back to prison to complete their sentence with very few exceptions. And when we as advocates heard about the releases, we celebrated and we kind of crossed our fingers and toes that our continued work and the sense of decency in our administrators would prevent what we're afraid is going to happen very soon. And so AFSC is again calling on our friends and community members to let their legislative leaders know that there's still a pandemic, right? That there's still a danger. And if in fact this quote unquote emergency ends in the next couple of months, the notion of sending people back is one that we will push back against with all that we have. And one of the ways we do that is to invite you all to join us in a call to have our legislative leaders and executives rethink the notion that sending people back is the right approach. And there's an opportunity for you to do that. And Bo, if you can put that opportunity in the chat so that people will understand what it is we're asking for. And as you have that opportunity to consider that, I would just invite you to take a challenge with me. It's one that I use very often in my work here at AFSC, and I call it the 8-year-olders challenge. When I think about the work we do and the challenges that we face, I often ask myself, if you were sitting down, Lewis, with an 8-year-old and explaining to them what's going on, what would their reaction be? And often that helps me understand how I should do the work that I do and how we all might consider doing our work. So I'm going to invite you to take this short challenge with me around sending moms and dads back. Sit down with an 8-year-old who was surprised to see dad come home and super excited and super relieved because that 8-year-old knew that dad was living in an environment that made him super susceptible to the virus, and he wasn't going to get the care and support that he needed because incarceration is not set up for that. But dad came home, and dad has been living home for 1.5 years now, taking care of you. Being dad has not gotten into any trouble. But now dad is sitting you down and talking to you about having to go back. how does that explain to that 8-year-old that, yeah, I've shown them that I'm okay out here. It's much safer for me. It's much safer for all of us if we don't send people back. I'm not doing anything that requires me to be incarcerated. I've demonstrated that I can live in society without committing any offenses that often in incarceration, but for no other reason than, you know, a poorly crafted piece of legislation. I will no longer be able to stay free. What does that 8-year-old hear? That 8-year-old, in my opinion, hears a message that no 8-year-old should hear, and that your dad is not worthy of living in society, no matter how much effort he's used or demonstrated to show that he's ready. That question is one that we all need to struggle with, because 8-year-olds tell the truth, and they tell it in an unfiltered way that many of us, as we get older and confront our individual challenges, are afraid to do. I think the 8-year-old would say, my dad's not going to hurt anybody. I need my dad. Let him stay home. It's really that clear to me, and I think to those of us who do this work, that to send someone back in an environment that is dangerous for no reason, again, other than a poorly crafted piece of legislation, it's not what we should be doing. And it's not what AFSC believes we should be doing. So we are, again, inviting you all to join us in this urgent call to have local, state, and federal decision makers to rethink the appropriateness, the decency of this piece of legislation, and to take the power that they have to make this clemency permanent, decarcerate as many people as we can, and let's start thinking about other ways to deal with community conflict. You will continue to hear AFSC call for ending the carceral state, looking for healing modalities that don't involve the harms of incarceration and detention. And this is just one of those steps, because it is our goal to free them all. And freeing them all will not be satisfied if we use technicalities and other inhumane approaches to dealing with people. And the 8-year-olds in our lives know better. And so I would just ask you all to join us in this effort to challenge the possibility that people will be sent back, and let those who are willing to listen know that, as a communities that have welcomed people home and will continue to welcome people home, we want to keep them home. We want to build a community that honors all of us, and one that realizes that what we're doing now doesn't work. It's too expensive, it's inhumane, and there are better ways. So I would again encourage us to stand up and step into this with all that we have, because that's what our 8-year-olds are challenging us to do what they know is right. And once we strip ourselves of our own prejudices and insecurities, I think we all would agree that sending people back into a environment that is an incubator for death during a pandemic, and even beyond the pandemic, is not what we want done in our name. And so listening to an 8-year-old is important. And take the opportunity to talk to the children around you, and let them teach us. And some of the greatest lessons that I've learned in this work have come from young people who have not been jaded by years of accepting what we claim to be the right way. So I'd love to engage in any questions or conversations that we want to have around this for the time that's available to us. But really, please consider joining our effort to challenge our elected leaders to rethink this bit of legislation and let people remain free in community, raising children, contributing in ways that incarceration will never allow them to. But please do not hesitate, and I see there may be some questions in the chat. I'm reading them relatively quickly, and I appreciate all of you being here, but it's really that straightforward, guys. We have a situation where thousands of people are sitting, not knowing when the knock on the door will come and the handcuffs will be attached and they will be returned to an incubator for the pandemic, all because of politics. That is not how we should treat one another, and that is not how, I think in our deepest moments, how we really want things done in our name. And so please let us know that you support this by joining our challenge, and share any questions you have in the few minutes that we have left. I'm trying to read real quickly. I don't know, Bo, if you can help me, if there are any questions that I should be responding to. I don't see any, so I think we're okay. But I'm certainly willing to stay on for a couple more minutes as we invite people to ask any questions or share any comments around this frightening potential that thousands of people will be sent back to those incubators because of the ending of a quote unquote emergency in the midst of, new variants and a bunch of unknowns. So please join us, and let's continue this effort to free them all, because at the end of the day, that's what our society needs. Our society needs moms and dads home. We need to get children out of these detention centers. We need to find a better way to deal with community conflict than the one we're using now. And it's even more clear during this pandemic. So please join us. And again, if you have any questions or comments, the chat is available for those, okay? Well, I don't see any questions, and can you just repost the opportunity for people to engage? Oh, there it is at the bottom. Please take advantage of that. And AFSC is open to hearing your thoughts. There are many vehicles by which you can share your perspectives on the issues that we work around, and please take advantage of those. I've had many conversations with people who challenge the way we do our work, and those are learning opportunities for everyone in the conversation. So we do not shy away from those difficult questions, because they only help us do our work and make sure that we are representing the communities that we show up in. So if this is not the space for you to share, please find other opportunities to let AFSC know what you think. And if it's something that we can directly respond to, I promise you one of us will. So not seeing any questions, and honoring the time that's been allotted for this. If it's okay, Bo, we're going to sign off with one more invitation to join us in the call. And I see Liz. Yeah. DUI, 60 days, and contracted the virus. I'm so sorry, Liz. I hope your nephew is doing okay. And if he isn't, we hold him and your family in our thoughts, okay? And if there's anything we can do, I can't quite tell from your message if your nephew is still incarcerated, but if there's anything we can do to help you, please reach out to us directly, okay? Yeah, it looks like your nephew is still has about 30 days. Okay. If there's any, letters we can send, I don't know where your nephew is, but if you want to reach out to me directly, please do not hesitate. I don't know, Bo, if it's allowed, you can put my email address in the chat. But yeah, your nephew's story is what we're talking about, Liz. So thank you for being willing to share that. Let's bring him home. Every day in those facilities is a day of likely contracting a disease a virus and spreading it, and God knows what else. So thanks for that. Again, Liz, please feel free to reach out, okay? And I think it's important to know that Liz's nephew is one of millions of people that are still incarcerated. So as we try to protect those who were able to get released, it's super important that we continue to challenge our administrators and politicians to protect those who remain inside. Okay? Throwing away the key is not the right thing, and forgetting about people it's wrong. So let's do what we can. Okay. All right, Bo, are we good? It's like trying to figure out when to leave a party when we used to have in-person parties. But unless there are any other questions, I'm happy to leave you all again with one more invitation to join us in the call to keep people home with their families and honor the perspectives of the 8-year-olds in our lives who I often think know best. Okay.